What's up guys, Jeff Cavalier, Athleanx.com. What you're about to watch is the most effective shoulder workout you've ever done. How do I know that? Because we're gonna focus on effective reps. If that's not something you've done before, well, it's about time you start. You see, the effective reps are basically those that occur at the end of your set. You know, the ones where you're struggling more to get them. In a normal 4 sets of 10, usually only the last couple reps are challenging for you, with the first 8 or so getting you to those effective reps. Well, what if there are strategies that allowed you to get to the more difficult but more results producing reps at a quicker pace? Well, that's where the 100 shoulder workout steps in, because we're gonna get you to those more effective reps a lot faster. And I'm gonna make sure that you get this right, because I'm gonna take you through this intense but effective workout step by step and rep by rep. And as always guys, we're gonna start with some science, in this case, anatomy. Because we know if you want to build the biggest shoulders possible, you're going to have to make sure you leave no head of the delt untrained. In this case, we're going to make sure that we hit the front delt, that middle delt that creates more width, and of course, that oftentimes overlooked rear delt. Now we're going to do this with different exercises, but more importantly, some new techniques. Because when you're trying to reach those effective reps more quickly, you're going to want to dip into some different strategies that are going to help you to get there faster. And we kick it all off with our first exercise here, which is a dumbbell or barbell overhead press. And your goal here is to pick a weight that's going to cause you to fail in the 12 rep range. Now keep in mind, when we're talking about failure here, we're talking about form failure, your inability to complete another concentric repetition in good form, meaning we still need to be able to recognize that it's an overhead press that you're actually attempting here. Now this first set here is called the ignition set. It doesn't count towards your overall effective rep count. You're simply doing it to pre-fatigue the muscles that we're trying to get into that more effective range. Now once you've reached that point of fatigue, the action starts, because now you're going to start a 15-second rest pause interval. At the end of 15 seconds, you get back into the exercise, this time allowing for a little bit of lower body momentum in performing a push press. Every single repetition that you hit here is going to count towards your 20 total effective reps. Once I reach failure again, I get a chance to rest pause for once again 15 seconds, and I get back in it. Now it's not uncommon for you to hit about 5 to 6 reps or so on the first round after your ignition set, and then maybe see 5 or 4 or 3 or even down to 2 effective reps after every given rest pause interval. That's okay. Remember, the goal here is to reach those high effort, high intensity repetitions that are capable of delivering more gains. Once you've reached your 20 effective reps, we now shift our focus more directly to that middle delt. And to do this, we do the side lateral raise, but with a different strategy here, again, to help us to get to those more effective reps more quickly. What you do is you perform a set, again, with a weight that causes failure in the 12 rep range. Now, mind you, that could be slightly less than what you're used to now because of the fatigue that starts to mount from exercise to exercise in this workout. Once you've completed that ignition set, now again, like the first exercise, you're ready for the action to begin. But before doing so, you're going to want to make sure you grab a dumbbell that is half the weight that you just used. So if you did 20 pounders for the side lateral raises, now you're going to be using 10s. But again, we're introducing a technique to increase that intensity to reach those effective reps. Here we do a static hold lateral raise. So your first repetition, you're going to lift the weight up, but now hold it in this top position for 5 seconds. Not only is this increasing the time under tension here, but it's going to make that lighter weight feel a hell of a lot more difficult, so these are going to be pretty hard from the get-go. But more importantly here, you do get to rest pause your way to these 20 total repetitions. The same as we did before, every time you need a break, you get 15 seconds, you get right back into it again, you crank out as many repetitions as you can until you reach that final total of 20 effective reps. We move on now to the third exercise in this 100 shoulder workout, and this is one of my favorites. It's the dumbbell hip hugger. And just like the overhead press that we started with here, this one doesn't necessarily focus its attack on one particular head of the delts, but more so 2 of them, the middle and the rear delts. And oftentimes we don't use a real heavy weight to hit the rear delts. This allows us to. You're going to want to make sure that you're letting your elbows drift out to the side into abduction at the shoulder while still keeping your hands close to your side. And most importantly, make sure that you're letting your elbows drift back behind you too into extension at the shoulder so we can hit that all-important rear delt. Now the rest pause starts. 15 seconds rest pause, and we start to crank out more repetitions again. And again, if you select the weight properly here, this first set after failure, you're probably going to get about 5 or 6 or 7 repetitions, with each set thereafter dwindling down. Even if you're down to just repping out singles, that's okay. You just want to make sure that you accumulate a total of 20 effective reps. And now with the fourth exercise, we start to focus our efforts more directly onto the front delt. And we know that the front delt typically tends to be the more developed or stronger head of all three, so putting it at this point in the workout when you're already fatigued is still going to be manageable. And the exercise of choice here is going to be the cable stretch front raise, allowing us to get those front delts into a position of stretch, something we don't oftentimes get if we're just doing a traditional standing dumbbell front raise. So there alone, you get a little bit of a stimulus for growth that you don't necessarily run into. And as has been the case in the rest of this workout, we choose that weight that will cause us to fail in the 12 rep range to initiate that ignition set. And notice when I'm doing this here, I'm still doing what we would call cable stretch front raises. In other words, I'm not just heaving this weight up. But as always, we're gonna go right after those effective reps again after just a 15-second rest pause to get me right back into the action. And as has been the case throughout the rest of the exercises here, you're simply gonna crank away at the effective reps until you reach a total of 20, and we move on to that last exercise. Now here's an opportunity for me to go after those rear delts one more time with one of my favorite exercises of all time. Who am I kidding? With my favorite exercise of all time. We're talking about the face pull. But there's something we can do here differently that once again allows us to get into those effective reps a little bit faster. So you perform your repetitions here first with the overhead raise. And the overhead raise here is not meant to stress the shoulders in terms of resisted overhead pressing. That's not what's happening here. What's happening is you're actually working the lower traps. But more importantly, you're having to sustain your time under tension in this contracted position of the rear delts for longer in order to complete that overhead press up and then back down. So we start with the exercise weight that would allow us to do 12 repetitions of this and really challenge us and take us towards failure. After our 15-second rest pause, now we're going to try to perform just the traditional face pull without the additional overhead press. And it's challenging. And you can see that even with mounting fatigue, my focus is still on creating not just effective reps in terms of their intensity level, but effective reps in terms of how good the quality is of them. It does you no good when you're seeking hypertrophy in a muscle to just use momentum that shifts the focus away from the muscle you're actually trying to grow. So if you can do this right, you're going to feel the tension directed at exactly where you want it to be, at the same time increasing that intensity level through the roof to a level you may not be accustomed to. That's a good thing. Once again, it's that cumulative 20 effective reps outside of that first ignition set that you're really trying to get to here to bring not only the rep count up to 20 for this exercise, but the effective rep total up to 100 for the entire workout. Now, for those of you who are excited to give this a try, I'm gonna do what I always do for you here. I'm gonna allow you to take this screenshot of the workout laid out step by step and rep by rep so you can take it to the gym with you and put it into action. Guys, remember when you're trying to build muscle, in order to get what you want to get, you got to do things you're not willing to do. And in that case here, we got to push ourselves harder, and the effective rep strategy is one of the easiest ways to do that. And in this workout here, we've got many strategies to elicit those harder reps at a faster pace. If you're looking for a complete program where we put the science back in strength and everything we do, you can find them over at Athleanx.com. If you like this series, tell me what you want to see next. And if you haven't done so, guys, make sure you click subscribe and turn your notifications so you never miss any of these in this series or beyond when I put one out. All right.